Uncensored is brought to you by PointsBet. Check out PointsBet's great odds and offers. Download the PointsBet app today and gamble responsibly. Well, today's guest, he is one of the best hookers of his generation, of any generation, really. He played 234 games for his beloved Tigers. He represented the Blues on a whopping 22 occasions, and he donned the green and gold an amazing 14 times. The man, Roy HG. Now, you know you've made it when Roy HG gives you a nickname. The man, Roy HG, nicknamed Backdoor Benny. Ben Elias, welcome to Uncensored.
Hey, Freddie, how are you? Always good to see you, mate. Always jovial and always funny, and that's a great introduction. Thank you.
How you going, mate? Good?
Life's good. Yeah, life's good. I can't complain. Life after football, believe it or not, you know, you think the world is rugby league and that's going to last forever, but as we all know, it doesn't, and you move on to another chapter or a new book, and that's what we've done, and life's been very good to me. Huh?
Mate, we'll get to that later in the interview, but obviously life after footy, you've certainly handled it better than most. Really, anyone's handled it better than me, but let's start back with the Tigers, your beloved Tigers, and, mate, when you think Balmain Tigers, I know the West Tigers now, but when you think Tigers, you think Elias, you think Roach, you think Pearce and Sirinen from those great teams. What's your take on the Tigers at the moment now? Because they're going through a hell of a spell.
Well, it's funny you say that, Brady, because, you know, you just mentioned those 5 players, but they were all loyal to the one club. Yeah. And we all stuck together and we enjoyed ourselves, and we stayed at the club for less money. And it wasn't about the money, and I can assure you it was not about the money. The money was good, no question about it, but we all stayed together and we were all one club. You know, we all stayed at the one club, and at the moment, you're finding it very hard at the West Tigers to find those players who stay at the club. And unfortunately, if you have a look at the agenda there of players who have left our club, we'll be here till next week, and a lot of those players, exceptional players, and I'm talking the top 2 or 3 in the game today who were at the Tigers there.
Well, it's fair to say maybe the best player in the game, Tedesco. Yeah. He's a Tigers junior, and even the second best fullback, who could be the second best player in the game, Pappenhausen, they're both Tigers juniors. Why is it always, for me, it's always been a shit fight, the Tigers. There's always pressure on coaches and something at board level. And, you know, outside of that 05, the great grand final they won, and a few years there with, Farrah Marshall Sheens when they made a few prelim finals. It seems like there's fucking always something going on there, you know?
Well, there is always something going on there, and, look, the great thing about sport is the scoreboard. Yeah. And unfortunately, our scoreboard is 1 out of 7 for the year, and to have that number, it's disgraceful. Yeah. There's no two ways about it, and you feel for the spectators. You know, I saw one of the players, I won't mention his name, very senior player. They asked him what went wrong last week, and they said, we didn't turn up. I said, my God, how do you say that? You are a professional man getting super big bucks. How the hell do you say we didn't turn up? Your spectators turned up. People watching them they all turned up, but they didn't turn up. I'd kick his ass from pillar to post and say, mate, you've obviously got an issue here, because, you know, you just don't make comments like that.
Yeah, and it's a throwaway line, isn't it? The old didn't turn up.
It's a weak answer. You know, and you've got to take responsibility. The players themselves. I mean, I love Madge and I love everything about the West Tigers. You know, you find it very hard for me to be very critical of the club, even after getting beat 1 in 7. I love Madge and I love the CEO and I like the board and all the. But mate, unfortunately, it's about winning and losing, and the spectators deserve a lot better.
And it's the same old story, isn't it? Most years
it's going to be this year. It's going to be this year. Well, we haven't made a finals in the last decade, so that's a long time. But looking right now where we are in reality, 1 in 7, it's disgraceful. Yeah. That's your report card, and your report card so far is disaster all over, red ink everywhere.
Well, and that's the thing. Now that's from you being one of the greatest hookers of our time with that cap on, with your footy cap on. Now put your business cap on. Yeah. It's been a shambles, that side of the business as well, hasn't it, for the club?
Well, you know what? It's funny, like life after football, what I did, I implemented the same principles as I did playing football into the business world. Yeah. And the likeness is frightening how close it is. You talk about teamwork, you talk about getting up in the morning, rolling the sleeves up. And, mate, the one thing that I always know, And my parents always taught me it's called hard work. And, mate, there's no substitute for hard work. You know, you can't take a pill that'll make you successful or rub a lotion on your face 3 times a day. It's going to make – it's all bullshit. It is hard work. And, mate, that is where you go. And they say, what should I do? Well, mate, you got to work harder.
Yeah.
You got to work harder. And it was documented during the week that they were at the pub drinking. No problem with all that. I got no issue with being together. But, mate, when I lost or when we played and we got beat, I found it very hard to go anywhere publicly.
Yeah.
It hurt me. Like, it really hurt. Yeah. And it had hurt me till Thursday until the game was getting ready again.
Game couldn't come quick enough, could it?
And it's because you wanted to redeem yourself because you got beat and we hurt. And we all celebrated together and we lost together. And there's soul in there, and there's emotion, and there's love, and you can take all those things that money can't buy, and you form it and stir it up, and you go out in the paddock and you do it because you know your mate on the left hand side's with you, and the bloke on the right hand side. If you fall, they're there to pick you up, and they're the things that you really need to know. And until our club gets that, they're going to continue to go along the same path, and I just find that. And it's hard to get that togetherness. Now, I wouldn't go to the pub, but you know what I would do? I'd go to a mate's place and have a barbecue with him and have a few beers with him in his backyard. And you try and talk about it and work your way through it and say, how do we win? And you yourself are the only person who got the answers. No one else. You know, there's no wave wands and, you know, magic potions and none of that rubbish. It's called hard work, mate, and you got to get it and you got to start immediately.
Yeah. How's the thoughts on us? It's been a while now, but the merger. How if you take it back to that time, I'm sure you know early '90s. Westbrook were a great rival. You know they had Brett and Joey Thomas and you know
Dallas Donnelly, Tommy Radonicus.
And we've seen how Manly North Sydney lasted. How and the St George Illawarra. Give us an insight into how did they. Do they actually work? You know what I mean?
So you're asking me the question, has the West Tigers franchise worked? Look, sometimes fate takes you in mysterious ways. And unfortunately, the NRL back in the Super League days gave us an ultimatum to either extinguished, gone. 2 clubs that have been around since 1908. Both foundation clubs, both very traditional, and they put the gun to our head and said, mate, you either merge or you
had no choice.
You got no more black and gold or no more black and white. So we merged. We had no other choice but to merge. We had no other. It wasn't money. It wasn't anything else. But it was that. So they put the gun to our heads, and so we conformed to the hierarchy at the time, and we had no choice. And as we all know, if we want to rewind 20 odd years ago, the great Super League, wow. Well, you know, it just destroyed relationships, friendships, clubs who had been around since day dot. And unfortunately, we were part of that. You know, we had a chance. You know, we had a chance. It's funny you mention this, Brady. We had a chance way back then to go Super League. They offered us $49 million. Wow. $7 million a year for the next 7 years, guaranteed by News Corporation. I said, you've got to take this. And they all booed me out of the joint because they said,
guarantees your survival.
We want to stay loyal to the ARL. And the ARL's offer was that they were going to give us $2 million interest-free.
Thanks.
Now, there's the two difference. And I'm thinking, sometimes you just got to sometimes
be smart.
Ignore emotion and sometimes forget about when you get emotionally involved in something, you always 90% of the time you're going to get into trouble.
Yeah.
And it was a business decision. And I went, and I'll never forget it. I went to the chairman at the time, Neil Whittaker, who was our chairman at Balmain, and Dawn Fraser was on there, and Alex Hamill was there. And I walked into that boardroom, and they heard me, and I said, I've just got to put it on the record because this is ludicrous how you cannot support this entity with News Corporation.
Just from a business point, isn't it?
And as we all know, Kerry Packer at the end of the day succumbed to the might of News Corporation, and he said, "Well, let's get back together again and stop spending all this money, and let's go." And News Corporation, as we know, won the big fight, and unfortunately, we got lost in that whole thing.
But it's funny you say that because obviously Dad was involved at the Knights, and he went Super League because the Knights wanted to go Super League as a club because again they had no money. But the loyalists in Newcastle said, no, we've got to stay ARL. Originally, West Leagues Club up in West Newcastle, were going to buy the Knights. But to go Super League, they didn't want that.
No.
25 years later, guess who owns the Knights now? West Newcastle. Like, that's finally taken 25 years to get back. They've struggled. Obviously, they had the Nathan Tinkler league, but Knights have always just kept their head above water for 20, 30 years, virtually since the inception. But it was a similar situation. Well, let's stay. They stayed solid with ARL and stayed loyal, but they struggled to
and what people feel, what they don't realise is also the Balmain Leagues Club in the yuppie area of Balmain all of a sudden became the Yuppieville, and they weren't playing poker machines anymore. You know, the Westies and the blue singlet workers moved out of the joint, and all the Yuppies came into the joint, and they didn't want to play. They didn't want to go get to the bistro. And let's not forget there are 33 pubs in a vicinity of about 15 kilometres.
Especially what's the Darling Street along there? Just off
they all got their poker machines in their pubs, and they stopped going to the club. And all of a sudden, the revenue of the Leagues Club went from almighty numbers to virtually nothing. And as we know, the old club has changed and collapsed.
Exactly. Well, let's take it back to you growing up as a kid. You were actually born overseas. Were you born in Lebanon?
I was, yeah.
Well, how old when you come to Australia?
I was 2 years of age. I was 2 years of age when Mum and Dad brought me over. I come from a family of 7 children, very big family.
That'd be good for backyard footy.
Oh, we had
or any sports.
And mate, we'd put the Balmain jersey on and we'd play in the backyard, and we'd listen to Frank Hyde, God bless his soul, Gold Frank, calling the football, and we'd stereotype ourselves of who was the player of and we had our heroes, and that's the way we grew up, and that was how you find the love of rugby league. I mean, I'm this little wog.
That's what I was going to say. How did you go back? Because I imagine back in the 70s or like early, it's. That would have been pretty ruthless.
You talk about racism, Betty, you don't even want to know. I mean, it's a walk in the park. If there's just a slight inference today on somebody being racist, it's front page, back page news. Trust me, I was called everything under the sun, and all to try to deter me from playing the Aussie game, which was go play your wog ball. Will you go on pitch yourself? Will you, little wog like 5'7"?
Just kept the fire brewing, kept the fire in the belly, got bigger and bigger.
It did. The more I got knocked, the harder I wanted to go. And I say I worked back to working hard. So you work hard in anything that you do, whatever field you're in. No one becomes. They look at rock stars like In Excess. Oh my God, they're lucky. They've got this new album out, and it's a number one hit, mate. They've been travelling in the pubs from club to club,
exactly.
Pub to pub. For years before they get there, they relentlessly just keep on going, and all of a sudden you get what you want, and that's success.
Well, that's what Lady Luck hangs out with, people who work the hardest, and
you should endorse that for your sponsors.
Yeah, exactly. I should
the more money
should put it back on the back of a Hallmark card. Well, your hero. Speaking about your hero, and your hero is brought to you by Swish, and Swish is the most exciting and personalised fan experience, all from the convenience of your own phone. So go to heyswish.com for more info. Who was your hero growing up, and what team did you support?
Well, mate, I hate to say it, but my hero was my old man.
Yeah.
He was my hero. Honestly, he passed away 12 months ago, almost to the day, Brady. So, and we reflect on it, and he was my hero in every way. I watched him work 3 jobs, bringing up 7 children, come over from Lebanon with not a dollar in his pocket.
Wow.
And my God, we never ever went without any food on the table. We always sheltered and made sure that our education was right. And mate, all he ever wanted was, all he ever wanted, and he just, you inherit that, the love of family, and we were very fortunate to have a big family and a very close family, and when I talk about football players and successful clubs, when someone falls over, someone's there. Well, I did that with my brothers and sisters. You always knew that they always had your back, no matter what. And my father incorporated all that. Mum and Dad, both Mum and Dad did that, and they were my heroes, man. Yeah. So he was my hero, but my sporting hero, my rugby league hero, they were the likes of. I loved Manly growing up. I loved watching Bozo Fulton. Bozo was awesome. Like he could do things that were just phenomenal. You think, oh my God, he had electric pace, and nothing's changed. Speed today and footwork, and a person that could read a game. If you got those 3 qualities, you're going to be success.
And it's the same things. Won the game 30 years ago win the games today.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
We talk about you come through. You went to the famous rugby league school, Holy Cross Ride, played Australian schoolboys. What any other big names in and around you played with?
Oh, yeah, we had the Gale brothers, Brett and Scott
Scott.
Gale, and they became, Scotty became my best mate, and he died of motor neuron disease at a very young age, which is very, very sad. But we had the Gale brothers, you had Paul Sirinen, Mitchell Moses and Luke Brooks both went to Holy Cross College. Tedesco he was a Campbelltown boy. But the schoolboy competition back then, we had the Greg Alexanders and the Paul Langmax, those big great names. And that was the entree to big football. Yeah. And mate, we were on TV, my old man didn't know I was playing football because he barred me from playing football. I'll tell you a story. He wouldn't let me play because my grades, I got demoted from the C class to the B class. So he banished me. He's not a player, played football anymore. And I just, behind his back, because he got 7 kids, he didn't know what I was doing. I'd be playing football. Yeah. And then he plays cards with all his brothers and cousins on a Friday night. And they're going, my God, we saw your son on the Commonwealth Bank Cup on the footy the other night. And he said, no, he doesn't play. He's not playing football. And he comes home and he goes, son, are you playing football? And I go, he's busted me. And I said, yeah. He got the strap out and give me a whack.
And you played good. At what age did you know? Because 1992 your debut.
1982.
82, sorry.
1982, I did, 1981 we won the Commonwealth Bank.
So you're a high school kid, so you know you're good. What age did you think, or even for your old man, Dad, I can make a career at this. I go pretty good.
Well, I'm at Holy Cross year 12, my last year at school, and I get a phone call from Frank Stanton. Yeah. Frank Stanton was the Balmain coach at the time back there in the 80s. He'd just gone from Manly to Balmain. And he rang me up and he said, mate, Neil Whittaker, our club captain's got the flu. I'd like you to come along and stand by just in case he doesn't play. And I've gone, and I got
what are you, a kid?
Now. I'm at school and I'm thinking, Channel 10 came out and did an interview with me, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm on TV and you're in the paper, and it just happened so quickly, And I ended up going. I played half a game in the Commonwealth Bank Cup, played against St George Dragons at Leichhardt Oval in the Yamco Cup, the Wednesday night competition. And Craig Young was there, and mate, I'll never forget him and Blocker, because Block was a young kid on the scene too. And mate, he just give it to Blocker, and I thought, my God, they had two heads hit like bulls, And then the next scrum, Blocker went back in and he hit him twice as hard. I'll never forget. And Albert said, mate, you're going to do all right, young man. You're going to do all right.
I had Block on here a couple of weeks ago, and I love Blocker.
He's my best mate.
Yeah, I got a chance to become real good mates with him through working at Fox. He's just, I just love the bloke to death. Yeah, I talk about good blokes. When I left Fox, there wasn't too many people that left when they exited me. He was one of it. Not even counting on one hand, who rings me, and I still talk to him today. He's just such a great fella, mate.
Block is my left and right arm. I swear to God.
How I look back and I sort of had Adrian Morley at the Roosters, and the game was different. But when I played with Moz, mate, I was more confident.
Tough.
Mate, the mouth was going twice as much, twice as fast. I was obviously a lot tougher then because I had Moz. What was that like to have, early 80s, User Foreman, possibly one of the, and will go down as one of the best forward packs of all time, those blokes I mentioned, Cyril Blocker Jr., but, there's David Brooks and Kevin Henry, all the...
Bruce Maguire,
there's plenty of others.
We had some tough blokes,
and mate, that must have made you feel bulletproof,
yeah. And mate, we'd always fear. South Sydney always had the big pack too, with Fennick, Ian Roberts, Bundy, Les Davison, and Boyle, and they had a big, strong pack also. And it was always the big clash, either at Redfern Oval or at Leichhardt Oval, Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock, and you just knew it was on. And you just knew. When I say you look left, you got Kerry Hemsley, then you look right, you got Blocker Roach. You feel pretty safe. Yeah. And then you got Ciro and Bruce Maguire and Junior and the lot.
Well, mate, I remember Fletch telling me he was a South man growing up, and Les Davison was unbeatable for him,
tough.
And he said Blocker got hold of him one day, and he said Blocker won't. Blocker obviously busted aside, made no big deal of it like he expected Blocker. But Fletch said, mate, I've never seen anyone.
Finchy, I tell you this, I saw Bundy and Blocker go toe-to-toe at Leichhardt Oval, I promise you not, and I've never seen too many, the crowd went in. They stood up because they just stood toe to toe. None of this push in and they went toe to toe,
jumping, grabbing,
and mate, I tell you, there was a bit of claret there, but on both blokes. Yeah. But you know what? Penalty, and you got on with the game. And you know what? The crowd, it's very hard. You normally ignore the crowd, but you couldn't help the crowd getting involved in this. I think a lot of that's gone away from the game. And I find it, and I hate the pushing and shoving and
it's rubbish.
And oh my God, they're rubbing their heads against each other's heads. And oh my God, honestly, I cannot recall anyone getting seriously hurt. I mean, today's game, and you get a good whack on the chin at State of Origin. I mean, they're so hypocritical sometimes when they want to promote State of Origin
with shoulder charges and fights, and
they go to the fights. Oh, it's State of Origin.
And don't you think, Benny, like you got halfbacks and wingers running in, pushing, shove because they know they can't get hit. Now, back in the day. Obviously, I was pretty lippy, but you knew blokes who you couldn't get near because they'd put one straight on your chin. And it'd stop blokes running in because they'd just go doink, You wouldn't be coming in next time.
Yeah. Look, there's a lot's changed since we've played.
Yeah, obviously you don't want inside violence.
But I think the game's gotten better. I really do. I love watching the footy now. I actually watch nearly every game on the weekend. There was a time in my life I just started really losing interest in the game. But I think what Volandis has done with the real change, especially the last 2 years, so many changes has made this game so quick, so athletically sort of respected and regarded now by people who just watch it on the armchair at home. The game has just become better and better. And the only sad blight I see on it is the pushing and shoving and all that stuff. But the toughness and the competitiveness, the one-on-one battles with your fullback on the fullback or the hooker on the hooker, half on the half, those competition battles are gone.
Yeah.
Because when we played, State of Origin used to determine whether you got that Australian jersey. And
that was City Country, wasn't it? Then into New South Wales.
Yeah.
And then all the way up.
And that was the journey. Yeah. And that was. I think they've lost a lot of that. Yeah. I'd love to see some of that get back in where you haven't got a guarantee. Like Tedesco's guaranteed number one in the Australian jersey. I can pick that right. I can almost pick the Australian side right now. Yeah. That'll happen. But when it shouldn't be, I mean, when you see a bloke like Pappenhausen, one-on-one, you got Travojevic now, you got three great number ones. Awesome. All playing for New South Wales. How do you put them all on one side? Yeah. The problem is you've got to leave out two. Our problem has been at State of Origin is that we've tried to play the one into the centres and on the wing, and it doesn't work. Yeah, you play your centres and you play your centres in the centres, and you play your front row in the front row, not in the second row, and you know your job, and that's what I love about Melbourne, and they've done it forever. You'd know. They know that they've got a role. One role, that's your role.
This is your job.
That's your job.
And do it well.
And you do it. And if you don't do it, you're not on the side.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's your role. Nothing more, nothing less. Not fancy. You're brilliant. I don't want to take that brilliance away from you, but this is your role. If you don't do this, I'll kick your ass.
Yeah, and if you don't do that, this bloke can't do that job. And then it makes your job.
Effect,
bellyache makes your job feel important that you need to do your job for this bloke to do his job and so on. Let's talk about your style.
Yeah.
And talking about today's game, and I'll touch on that at the end of this. But you, quite frankly, were ahead of your time, a long way ahead of your time. The style of hooker now is what you were 30 years ago. I sat down with my old man and we spoke about the hookers, because obviously Dad was at St George to the late 70s, and I think his last season.
To play. Jeez, I tell you, man was a tough bloke.
Last season was too bad it stopped there. Didn't run in the family. My sister's tough. That's about it. He left in 1980, I think was his last year. So we're talking about the hookers, and he was talking about Roy Simmons, Stephen Edge, Ray Brown, Mario Fennick, Johnny Lang, George Paponis, and then there's you. Like that, those guys. Mario Fennick, for an example. Yeah. Mario Fennick, when the game goes from 5 to 10 metre, and he's at the end of his career with North, he's playing front row. So that's the type of hooker that the game had seen. Yeah. Like it looked like they were throwing, when they're passing from dummy half, it looked like they're throwing watermelons off the back of a truck. Tough, win the ball at the scrum, and obviously the scrums were huge then. But you come along, you've got your playmaking ability, you're smaller, you're quicker, that's not how hookers play. And no one else played like that.
Well, Finchy, you're right, because my competition was Roy Simmons and Greg Canescu for Queensland, who was the Queensland hooker at the time, and then Boxhead came in, Walters came in later, and I'm this small wog, as I said to you. I had to prove. I had to work extra hard than the next
100%.
bloke. And I had to do something different.
Yeah.
I had to do something different to be a show. Like why? I'm just another bloke, and I'm half the size.
Yeah.
So mate, they're going to say, "I'll pick the bloke who's bigger and stronger. His defence is much more." But because all I need is this bloke to pick the ball up and pass the ball.
Yeah.
And and then I worked very hard on. We used to compete for our scrums when I started playing, and I worked very hard on trying to compete for the scrum in the old rules.
Yeah.
But then I had to do something extraordinarily different. So the only way I could do something different was trying to attack from dummy half.
Well, how do you convince the coach that, hang on, the hooker's been like this way for 100 years.
Yeah.
This is how I think we can play. We'll play off the 9.
Frank Stanton was Frank Stanton was very good. He's liberated. And he had he came and gave me every encouragement and support that known to mankind to take this kid out of school and give him a chance at the title, because you do things differently, and I like what you do. We were the Wooden Spooners in 1981. So that was my last year at school. I'll never forget it. And he said, mate, we need to do some clever things now to try and get off the bottom of the barrel. And we're in the same problem at the moment at the West Tigers. We've got to look for players who do extraordinary things. So I did it differently back then. And, it was a gamble, a big gamble. They either say, mate, get lost, mate. That's not what your role is here, buddy. Your role here is to just pick the ball up and pass the ball. I thought, no, I can offer a little bit more than this. I can run and create different plays from dummy half. Yeah. Exactly what they did at halfback. So I could just do it 5, 10 metres earlier. Yeah. And then the combination started, and I was very lucky because I stayed, as you know, with the Tigers, who we had great combinations. Yeah. We had great understandings, and that became just evolution.
But to look at the game now, and obviously Cameron Smith is one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest. But it's all about how he manipulated the markers. That's what you were doing. Bringing blokes onto the ball, dummy across the back of the ruck. Yeah. I remember the big arm out the back, the dummies either side. Yeah. That's what people try to teach their hookers now. Yeah. That's 30 years later. And you were doing that back then.
Yeah. Well, as I said, you have to, sometimes, again in business, you got to do something creative or something out of the ordinary that you become irreplaceable. And when you do some clever things like that, you think, oh my God, I can't believe that. And all of a sudden it became part of the game, the new game, because you just knew at that focal point. You touched the ball more times than anyone else in that side, including your 7. So you control the game. Yeah. So I used to like controlling the game. And, and we did things. We played and we did moves, and everything was off the focal point, which was the dummy half. Yeah. And look, it was very successful, and and we've seen, as you said, the greats now, the Cameron Smiths play,
But they've you can't play hooker if you don't get out and play.
No, not now. You don't.
No. And especially with the game and I guess it's a 2-part question. What do you think of the new rules with the speed and how important the 9 is now? If you don't have a good number 9, you can't win the comp.
9.
But do you think, how much would you have loved playing now with what seems... Because I'm guessing when you started, it's 5-metre rule, so they're fucking on you.
Oh, yeah.
So this day and age, like with the 10-metre rule and the speed of the ruck, how much you would have enjoyed it coming out of dummy half?
I would have loved to be in today's game. Yeah. There's one bloke who I'd love to sort of get by the scruff of the neck, and that's Damien Cook. Yeah. Damien Cook should be the best player in the game today. For these, he's so quick, he's sharp, he's good on his feet, and there are times when he's just got to take the game by the scruff, because this game is suited for Damien Cook perfectly. Yeah. It's a fast game, and up the middle is where you're most vulnerable. You see the big units, big roll on. They think the big forwards come and rolling on. But mate, Damien Cook, his blistering speed off the mark.
It's lightning, isn't it?
Go up and you take on the first opposition, which is the closest bloke to the ruck. You go to him, you turn him inside with Latrell Mitchell on the inside of you. Yeah. There's gaps there yawning. Yeah. And that is where you play the game. Yeah.
It's not all through the ruck now, isn't it?
Not 2 pass, 3 pass out wide. Yeah. And there's so much opportunity there. I can just see it. I look at it and I rip my hair out saying, my God, why doesn't he just attack this more often, and he's got the ability because we know he's such a good player.
Damn right he is.
I love him. I'd love to get with someone like that, you know. And we used to target the opposition, a player who'd be lazy. You watch it, and the great thing about football, you can go watch a video on a player, and you'll find there are about 2 or 3 lazy players. They do one tackle, then they go to the blind side. Well, they do 2 tackles in a row, then they definitely go to the blind side.
Or they might be late back on side.
So what we used to do, we used to target a player. So let's just say it was Brett Finch.
Yeah. That happened a lot in my career anyway.
But we'd throw blocker at you, then we'd have Ciro at you, and then the dummy half you'd get the fast bloke because then we knew that Finchy wanted to mark up because it was not.
I didn't want to go back, or just like you'd be left on the ground.
Or you're left on the ground, and then you take off. Yeah. And Damien Cook should have that.
Yeah,
he's the fastest bloke.
You should have like blokes you know. Well, if this bloke carries it.
That's right.
I'm looking to run after him.
We call it.
Yeah.
We used to target him. Yeah. We used to run at the player.
Yeah.
We wanted him to tackle you. Yeah. And the bloke that we targeted in State of Origin was Mal Meninga.
Yeah.
Mal became, because Mal's such a big unit.
At the end of his career, wasn't he?
Oh, mate, he was such a big bloke. His agility was very, very skeptical.
Yeah.
Very, very sus. And we would take the fast blokes around him, and that was our weakness. And to Gus Gould's credit, you know, we used to target him and say, "Well, here we go," and we'd make plays and run around him. And when you score a try from that, you just have so much respect for your coach. You think, "Oh my God, what a brilliant coach!"
He had that plan 2 weeks ago, and
he did. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that Origin period a bit later. Let's go back to probably a game that's still. I look at you were involved in 2 of the best games I ever remember growing up. And unfortunately, you go back-to-back grand finals, you lose. Obviously, 89.
Yeah.
It's regarded as one of the greatest games in history. Like, when you don't win, who gives a fuck? Because I lost 2 grand finals in a row in 03 and 04.
Yeah.
And people go, what a good... Like, I don't get... Like, because Penrith, the Scott Sattler... I love Sats, but I don't want to fucking talk about it. I don't want to hear about it. No. But obviously, and there's so many variables in 89 when you look back, the Mick Neal ankle tap. Like, that's game over. Your field goal.
Yeah.
You know, and the field goal and the crossbar back in that day was a straight wooden plank. Like now it's every chance it would have flicked over.
Flicked over for sure.
All stuff like that, mate. Just as a competitor, you know, and the Warren Ryan takes off blocker, and you know, just all these variables.
There were so many points that made that a great game. You're right, Finchy. I reckon it's one of the great.
Oh, it was amazing.
So there are so many moments in that game that makes it spectacular.
Yeah.
But you know. People ask me, you know, we were the hot favourites to win that game. Yeah. Hot favourites because you got to lose a grand final to win one. And so at 88, we lost the one against the Dogs. To 89, we're the hot favourites in the grand final, looking like the super side. But mate, when you have a look at the Canberra side,
I know it's unbelievable, isn't it?
When you have a look at the Canberra side, I mean, they had Gary Belcher, Chicka Ferguson, Mal Meninga, Laurie Daly, Bradley Clyde, Boxhead. Sticky. I mean,
Dean Lance, Lazo.
Lazarus. I mean, honest to God. Sullivan.
Chris Sullivan,
They were a brilliant side.
Oh, of course they were.
And
they win 3 out of the next 5 grand finals, or 3 out of the next...
Well, it's funny, you know, let me tell you
3 out of the next 6 grand finals. They go 89, 90. They lose 91 and win 94.
And their coach was Tim Sheens. So when I was with Tim Sheens was the 92 State of Origin coach.
Well, you captained that.
I captained that. Me and him had a big fallout. We had a big clash. I was the captain, he was the coach. And he kept on going on about Steve Wallace. Mate, don't worry about Steve Wallace. I'll get Steve Wallace, mate. There's no way. And we just kept on. Anyway, long story short, we had a big blow up. 2003, Tim Sheensy gets kicked out of North Queensland.
Comes to Tigers.
Goes and retires on the farm at North Queensland with Rhonda, his partner then. And 2 years had not training, not coaching. And I'm on the board of the West Tigers and I think, geez, we need to do something, really. We struggled. I mean, we tried Wayne Pearce and Terry Lamb and Paul Langmack, and we tried everyone to try and coach the place. We had no success, nothing at all, no money left. And I thought, and I used to train with Laurie Daly in the gym. And I said, mate, who would you get as a coach? He goes, mate, Tim Sheens.
Yeah.
I said, what? He's retired. He goes, mate, he's the bloke you need. I said, serious? So I go to the board meeting and I recommend Tim Sheens. I go ask Mal Meninga, I go ask Clyde, I ask Sticky, because I know these well enough to pick the phone up and say, They all said Tim Sheens. And I thought, shit. So I rang up Sheensy, and he thought it was a G-up because we had a big fight. We hadn't spoken since '92, and he thought it was Sticky.
Sticky playing
or Box. He goes,
yeah.
oh yeah, Box. Yeah, you're hilarious. What are you doing, you little mongrel? You know. Yeah. I said, no, it is
Benny.
Mate, I got your number through Laurie. He goes, well, give me your number and I'll ring you back. So
got your number.
He got my number. He rang me back. We flew him down to Sydney the next day. He was like a kid in a candy. He was that excited because he'd been off the game for 2 or 3 years. He came to our club, and 2 years later we win a premiership. And you find out how did we win that premiership, and when you get and look from a director's point of view at the coach, at the qualities of the coach that this bloke had and brought to the club. Was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It really was.
Well, he changed the game because we come off the Roosters' dominance of being one of the dominant teams, and it was all forwards power.
Yeah.
They had a small forward pack. Yeah. They were with skill and speed.
Agility, very, very sharp. And Sheensy would be so thorough. And not that I say that Mads is not, because they're but you have an aura about. He really cared about the person off the field more than on the field. And they're the qualities that Bellamy have, as you know, Bellier, Wayne Bennett, Sticky, those coaches, Desi, they really care about what you do off the field. And you genuinely think, oh my God, he really cares about me. And he knows my daughter's name, and he knows my kid's name, and my old man's name.
Well, that's the difference when you don't want to let someone down. Because this bloke cares about me. I don't want to let him down.
The loyalty there, Finch.
100%, mate.
And that's where the loyalty, you think, you can't buy loyalty. You can't buy. I'm going to put my life on the line for you because you've been such a good mate of mine. You've helped me out in a real sticky situation. I was dead and buried, and you revived me, mate. Yeah. I'm not going to let you down.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can't say, oh, you can't let this bloke down. Let's do it for Junior because it's his last game. You can't do that.
Nah.
You build that rapport.
Yeah.
And that rapport I saw with Tim Sheens.
Yeah, with the players.
In 2005, I thought that's why they were so dominant. And, mate, as you know, we won that in 2005. And that was our last victory.
Yeah, won it easy.
Yeah.
Mate, you talk about the early 90s. Tina Turner, simply the best. You were front and centre with him.
Yeah.
That must have been a good time to be playing. The game, because I remember, and we'll get into the origin, but early 90s, I'm from the age of 10 to 15 or whatever. So that's when you had footy's just everything, and footy's still everything, but footy's everything. And you're front and centre, not only Origin Australia, but the game goes through the roof with the Tina Turner campaign.
Well, mate, you got to give credit to John Quayle. Yeah. John Quayle was the administrator and boss of the place. And we talk about getting out of your comfort zone and doing things extraordinary. You make yourself brilliant. Yeah. Well, he became a brilliant overnight. It wasn't overnight because he'd been working for 20 years before that, day in, day out. But overnight, he became a mecca because he did something that no one had ever done. Yeah. He brought an international artist over here. And he promoted, and in that commercial, if you have a look at it, it had everything. It had sexy, it had the boys on the beach, with their shirts off, running along the beach. And you had the kids.
I still that down there, Bondi Day. I seen the other day down Vaucluse Beach.
But and it had everything. It appealed to everyone: the kids, the family, the girls loving the game, the toughness of the boys. And it was, and then the game itself, and they mixed it all together, and that was the magic. Yeah. And all of a sudden, in 88, 89, early 90s, that became the aura of rugby. Yeah. And the AFL was shitting themselves because they thought, my God. They tried then to do their little, to try to copy us, which is the greatest form of flattery is copying. Yeah. And they try to get their little jingles with their songs and do something similar to what we did. But it just never happened. And look, I still say today, that's got to be probably one of the greatest publicly energetic, exciting campaign I've ever been involved with in not just in football but in business and sport. It's just amazing. Yeah. Fantastic.
Let's go to the origin. When I say state of origin, what comes to mind for you?
Mate, as a kid growing up, that's all I couldn't wait for state of origin. Okay, so I go back and you dream. You go to bed at night as a kid and you dream of playing state of origin football, and the most prestigious is wearing the green and gold, but mate, I've got to tell you, the most recognised and regarded and toughest was State of Origin. No question about it. And that was what you always wanted to do. And as a kid playing, as you would know, and anyone that can relate or listen to this program, there are dreams where you just wish to God that you want to do something. Whether I don't know what the things, there are different things in life for different, milestones in life you want to do and you dream about. Well, that dream came true playing State of Origin. 1985. We hadn't won a series.
You were part of the first series?
I was part of the first series, and I got picked, and I never forget it because I was at the 84 Sydney Cricket Ground the year before with my mates on the, having a few drinks and having a laugh and just dreaming of, wouldn't I just love one day to be on that? And mate, 12 months later, it was my dream. I could have died. I was complete. Life was complete. And then the joy of winning that first State of Origin. The first game was up at Lang Park, and it was Lang Park, and we're talking Lang Park with the hill, with all those Queenslanders who just wait all year for State of Origin so they can brag about the little brother smacking the big brother, and they just love it up there. And when I was on that bus, and Steve Mortimer, who was our captain, he stopped the bus and he told us, and he got us at the back of the bus, and he just said, look at all these Queensland, they hate you. And then he mentioned everyone that you know in life that you've been part of, whether they loved you or hated you. The kid that you had a fight with in the schoolyard, they're all watching tonight. And you think, shit.
Yeah,
and
that's how big it is.
And mate, it used to real love, and I knew we were going to win that game because I saw Blocker and Crusher Cleal and Brett Kenny, and I see these players not saying another word after that, and it was the most moving 3 minutes of my life of a bloke, coach, player, giving me a message, and you just knew that you were going to win. And mate, we did. We dropped their pants up there at Lang Park, and we came back in Cricket Ground and won game 2, which we won the series. But that was everything, and I loved State of Origin, mate. Mate, and every minute, every second of playing State of Origin was a gift.
Yeah, and even just you talking about it there, right? Obviously when I finished footy, the whole football left.
Oh, mate, I remember you kicking that field goal.
Yeah, and that when I did that rush of emotion, I'll never feel that again.
Never.
And that's why I struggled after, like, chasing that feeling again. But here's you're talking about something in 85, and I can see your emotion, I can see the goosebumps, and I see how you talk about
I love it.
That's in 85, and how that's the impact it has on someone.
Mate, it really is special. 35 years ago, 36 years ago.
Now,
it's a long time.
One of the most famous memories for me, but obviously the most famous images and memories, blood streaming down the face. What was it, 92? We win 14-6. Your mum's on the field. Yeah. And you're our Wally. Yeah. So for me as a kid, you're our Wally because you go to Queensland, everyone hates you. Oh, yeah. They're trying to kill you. Like Queensland were trying to kill you. Just like Wally's a wanker, the champ would go up and you're our Wally, you know what I mean? So you're the antagonist. You're the one who goes, I don't care who you are, let's go. That's what you were for us. Passion, that's what you were for us. So especially that three-peat, 92, 93, 94, which I think is the greatest era for New South Wales in history for the Blues. But that image, like 92, this is because Queensland, I think, won 90, 91.
They won 91, and
it was like that turned us, and that image, like blood's mate, you got blood everywhere. The strapping's half off, but it's like I don't care if take half my head off. I'm not leaving the field,
mate. There's 15 seconds to go in that game, Finchy, honestly, and I look up and there's my mother with a hanky wiping my blood off my head. What the hell are you doing here? There's 10 seconds to go. Like, she's jumped the fence. She's got through the security. She's out in the oval wiping blood off my head. And it was one of those. If you ever want to share a moment with the love of your life is my mum, obviously. Mum and dad were my mum was special. Like God strike me. But seeing her she didn't give a shit about the game. She was worried about me. She was worried about her son, bleeding from ear to ear, blood pouring out. She didn't give a shit. That's how, and that's love. And and it's funny, and you talk about bleeding for each other and, doing what you got to do. Well, we did that game. Mate, we had Clydie and Laurie Daly off in the first 7 minutes of that game. Two of the best players out, two of them gone. And, mate, we didn't have interchange back then, and you only had 4, so we only had 2 reserves. Like, we had to win that game too, and that was one of the most extraordinary, one of the greatest moments of my life. Yeah.
And there's a great shot of you after that game back in the sheds. You got the old Tooheys Blues, because Tooheys Blues were sponsors, but Tooheys Blue can.
Yeah, John Quayle.
Mate, your whole face just looks like your face paint red. Yeah. The blood's everywhere, and mate, you're smiling like a Cheshire cat from ear to ear, mate. I was like, mate, what about the 48 stitches you're about to get in your head? You didn't even care. There it is there, Yeah. Give us a look at that.
Oh, yeah, it's a classic. No.
Get a look at that. That's the picture we're talking about there.
That is bleeding. No, that was...
Yeah,
that
look,
typifies everything. That's
you
state
could
of
not
origin.
care if... Look how happy you are.
As I said to you.
That's
mate,
all
I
that matters.
could
You
die.
won the game.
That's it. Mate, and you thought... you think this is the centre of the world and the whole world's watching State of Origin and that's the way you felt. And that's how much it meant to us, It really meant to us. It was quite an extraordinary... It's a real funny feeling, Finch. You'd know because you were in camp with us. But how you translate going from your club football, for 6 weeks you go into camp with blokes who you absolutely hate, because you're your competition week in week, and then you all come in and overnight you get in there and it's love. Like how hate goes to love, and you become best mates. And it's off the field the things that the extraordinary things, and it was, and Gould, love him or hate him, he was a very, very clever man because he was able to manage the players. He knew that he had to wind up blocker. Yeah. And he knew he didn't have to say a word to Junior. Yeah. He knew that that the brilliance of Freddie, that he just let him do his own thing. And there were other plays he put a lot of time into, and you could see it, and it all worked, and it just seemed to just glue together. Yeah,
that 92, 93, and Gus was obviously, but why I put you guys on top of the pile? One, I'm a kid, so he's looking at like your heroes, but it was virtually the same squad.
Yeah,
it's just 3 years.
Yeah.
Brusher, Daly, Fitler, Paul McGregor, Ricky, Clyde, Zero, E.T., Chief, Lazo, yourself, Brad Mackay maybe off the bench, Johnny Cartwright, Gillespie in there as well, Salvatore had a game or two. But, and then what amazed me was your combination with Ricky and Laurie.
Yeah. Amazing.
Like you said, because guess what? Guess who you're going against?
That's right.
Their teammate back at home.
Oh yeah,
mate. Just talk us through those 3 years and that amazing team. It was as good a team as any rugby league team has been put together.
Well, and Finchy, I had the pleasure of captaining 2 years as State of Origin captain there, and you just knew, you just knew, and Gus would say to you, I'll support you if you do the right thing by me, or you just do what I ask you to do. I'll invest in you. Yeah. And you just knew, and when you have that belief and that confidence, and the arrogance of just believing that you're much better than the opposition.
So is that why you were so good?
I think so. Because we were together. We were so close. Honestly, there was no mug. There was no mug policy there. No. If you're a mug, you wouldn't be there. Yeah. And that was the first, probably. You got to be a good bloke. Yeah. And I think just being the good bloke sort of concept was very important for just being that. That was probably the love of being in camp with your mates. Yeah. And we're thinking, we get the grouse bistro, we get unlimited food, and you're going from place to place, and you're training in the morning, and you get the sun in that time of the year where the sun's just coming down on your face, and you're walking down to go to train, and you just can't wait, and then the clock just ticks down, and front page, back page, of paper, radio headlines, it's all State of Origin,
centre of the earth, isn't it?
And it's like the big world championship, and it boom, there was nothing more exciting. It was exciting for the spectators more. They get, you'd go down to Coogee Oval.
Yeah, the people are bipping. When you walk down from Crown Plaza, the cars are tooting the horn.
But I say this with respect to Queensland. They start getting ready for State of Origin when the next day after the
last one.
They just love it up there. Yeah. They go to work in their scarves and their beanies and their jerseys a week out of State of Origin. And they just love it, and they live for it. They live for it, and it's their flag. It's their black flag share up there, and that's why they've been so successful, because the people up there get right behind it, and they understand how important this is to win. Yeah. And they do, and that's why it's so hard to get on top of them.
Now you spoke about obviously donning the green and gold, but Origin's the greatest challenge. I totally agree with you. I always said, I've never played for Australia, but Australia's the highest honour. Printing the premiership's the greatest achievement.
Yep.
But Origin's the greatest challenge, or the greatest sense of self-satisfaction, because that's you may play for Australia, but you play in France, or you play the Poms, you might give them a spanking. You've done that more than most. But Origin's the best of the best. You know, it doesn't get any better than that. And for you, you're named one of 25 greatest New South Wales players ever. But playing Origin's hard enough. I played 3 games.
Yeah.
Like one of the games, there's about 8 halfbacks injured. I think Sterlo was in getting a hip replacement. They called him before me. But I'm so grateful I played 3.
Yeah, what an honour.
You know, you're one of our best. You're one of our top 25. That must be pretty special too.
Well, mate, you probably know how passionate I am about it. So that's extraordinary, you know. So as a little kid growing up, my dream, did I ever dream that I'd ever be in the top 25? No, not in a lifetime. But, you know, it's a great achievement. And for people out there listening, you know, anything, you dream about something and you apply yourself to it if you love it. The first thing is you've got to love what you want to do. If you love what you want to do, you'll be successful in it, because it's just infectious that you want to be more and more. You want it more and more. It's a drug, and that is probably the greatest drug of all. Is wanting to get your dream.
And you know, I may be wrong. You played Origin in your last year.
Yeah, I got the representing player of the year in '94.
And you got man of the match game 3 up there. Mal's last game.
I did. Yeah.
So it's Mal's farewell game. You just go up and spoil the party because they win game 1 with that miracle Mark Coyne try. That's not a try, that's a miracle. Yeah. You just go down to Melbourne and beat them down there, and then we're going up there to Lang Park. Yeah. Game 3. Yeah. The odds of anyone coming back from 1-0 down and the deciders at their home ground, we're no chance. Plus it's Mal Meninga, the great Mal Meninga, his last game. You go up there, you get man of the match. He's been a game. Remember, Freddie takes an intercept, I think, off a scrum. Yeah. Scores on the post.
Yeah. Mate, Laurie Daly, he was.
Talk us through some of your favourite players you played with during that time. I remember Loz, and you look back now, and I played with Loz at the end of his career. He was like 21, 22.
Yeah. He captain. We had the joy of captaining each other in State of Origin. You know, he was my captain in 92. Mate, you play with players like that. I mean, Sticky, Ricky Stewart. My God, what. You know, I was fortunate to play in the second test over there in England, where we had to win. Went down 1 test to 0.
Look what's right. Look what's on my thing. Very next
God.
Very next question.
And being part with Mal Meninga in your side and Bradley Clyde and Laurie Daly, these legendary players.
Well, let's talk about this. The Kangaroo Tour, because you go on 2 Kangaroo Tours.
I did.
Yeah. So 86 was your unbeaten.
Yeah.
And 1990, this was the second game I was talking about.
Yeah.
As the greatest. 2 of the greatest games I was saying. It was the game 2.
Oh, brilliant.
Old Trafford. We lose game 1. Sticky and Alfie are the halves, I think, in game 1. Then game 2, it goes Sticky back to halfback, Cliffy Lyons.
That's right.
Now, you may have been involved in the first try. One of the tries, Cliffy scored a try. It was one of the greatest tries I've ever seen.
He did. Oh,
Went through a million sets of hands. Oh. E.T. kicks it back in. Cliffy scores.
Yep.
But then Eastwood takes the intercept, and Blocker spoke about the same thing.
Ricky Stewart.
Passed it. And then he takes the run for 80 metres.
He makes it.
And you were man of the match that game, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you were man of the match.
Yeah. I actually gave my jersey to Michael Hutchins. He came to the game in excess, yeah. After the game, he came into the dressing room and...
Can I just sidetrack here?
Yeah.
You were really the first, like, what's the right words? Superstar in terms of... You had that celebrity about... without, for lack of a better term, didn't you? You were a man of the people, not celebrity. You know, it's not a good, but you were, you know, well known.
Well, look, you know, Michael Hutchins.
That's a pretty good rap, isn't it? Wanting to be jumper.
Him and Gary Beers walked in the dressing room, and John Farris was there too. And they asked, "How could I have your jersey?" And I said, "Mate, this is yours." Like, my God, like Michael Hutchins. You know, he played in a rock concert. He cut the sleeves off, and he had the Australian.
He wore it
on an encore.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, awesome. Anyway, but look, that was brilliant. That game was special. Like, you know, that was one of those dreams where you think, "Oh my God," and you win the last. And I knew being with those Canberra players, they're so tinny, those mongrels, because they beat us in '89. You know, so you knew that those players. They just have that knack of doing extraordinary, amazing, miracle things because they were all involved in it. Mal was involved in it, Badge was involved in it, and so was Stiggy. Yeah. I mean, just brilliant they did. I mean, never, with 2 minutes to go, they weren't phased.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we're trying to do everything at 100 miles an hour. Oh, mate, and they were just as kills. I mean, set an intercept pass that you've lost a test series.
And it would have been the series first loss in 30, 40 years.
Ever.
Yeah.
Like, my God, nothing faced him, and that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And Sticky, mate, I've always been in awe of Sticky, you know. Sticky almost came to the Tigers, you know. He signed with the Tigers. He signed with the Tigers before he went and played Canberra.
Really?
Yeah. I was working with Keith Barnes at the time, and he said to me, Benny, I've just signed this player. I've never seen a bloke kick. He was a straight
schoolboy,
rugby union.
yeah. He went on the Wallaby tour, didn't he?
He did. Yeah. He said, mate, I've never seen a bloke kick a ball so far and throw a ball so long. He goes, mate, he makes Wally Lewis look like, and he's a young kid named Ricky Stewart. We've just signed him for 3 years. I thought, how good is this? I'm looking forward to meeting him. You know, I didn't meet him.
Next week, you're playing him in the grand final.
A week later, Barnesy comes in. He goes, because Keith Barnes was such a gentleman. He didn't want to come, but he had signed. And
so Keith, he could have forced his hand.
He could have forced him. And he says, mate, I'm signed, I'm committed, but, mate, I don't want to leave home. Canberra was his home. He was Queanbeyan. And he said, look, I've let him out. And if you ever, I've always said, mate, you're always welcome to come back here. And Sticky will tell you the story. Yeah. Because I asked Sticky. I said, and he goes, yeah, B, I signed and I was committed. And Keith Barnes was such a gentleman that, you know, he let me out. Yeah. You'd never see that today. Not in today's world, no way.
Well, what were the Kangaroo Tours? That's when they were Kangaroo Tours. By the way,
if we had Keith Barnes as a CEO today,
he wouldn't be in the same position.
We wouldn't have, mate. There is no way in the world a bloke like Mitchell Pearce with a name like Pearce
would be
or
playing.
Sirinen, or you know, would
Curtis or
no way in the world would he let those players go.
Yeah,
no way.
It's funny with Pearce, isn't it? Like,
wow.
I just remember those Kangaroo Tours. I'd get up in the middle of the night to watch them, you know. And you was away for 2 or 3 months. That must have been great fun. Just you would have had a ball,
mate. It was State of Origin camp on steroids. Yeah. It was unbelievable.
Instead of in camp for 10 days, you're away for 2 months
in another country. Yeah. And mate, up north of England, they love their league. Yep. They love their rugby, and you're like a superstar over there. Like, my God, you go out to a pub and you think that you're, like, honest to God, and it was just like movie star status, and we loved it. Like, I mean, it was nothing like in Australia. You're like, oh yeah, there's Ben Elias, mate. It was these blokes. Oh my!
You spend a couple of months with them, and you come back the next year, and you're trying to knock each other's heads off.
But they were great. Yeah. The Kangaroo Tours it was the epitome. It was the ultimate.
Yeah. So it was once every 4 years, wasn't it?
4 years, yeah.
Mate, so I'll run through a couple of just questions now. Best player you played with?
Probably Ellery Hanley.
Yeah.
Ellery Hanley, I've never seen a bloke come to a club and do things like he did. He was brilliant in every way. I picked him up from the airport with Keith Barnes. I was working at the club at the same time as I was playing. And we picked up Ellery Hanley, and all he did was just a total professional, never drank. First bloke at training, the last one to go home. Just lived and breathed rugby league, and so professional. Like, he'd make sure, he'd stay back 2 hours later and making sure that he got things right.
Yeah, that's
absolutely brilliant.
Best player you've ever seen?
Wally Lewis.
Dirtiest player?
Dirtiest player, probably Mark Bugden or Peter Kelly.
Toughest player you played with or against?
Probably Gordon Tallis. Yeah. I copped the early part of Gordon Tallis. And Gordy was a real tough, great competitor. And, mate, and you know, he's one of those blokes who had all, you know, elbows and knees. You couldn't get him around him, and every time you hit him, it was either your knee or your elbow you were getting. So he was very,
I look at some of your great battles. And another picture that always comes to mind when I think of you is you trying to mediate MG and Wally.
That was a classic. That was a classic.
It's like you trying to look after, trying to pull MG in the line. No. But not only did you take on, like, obviously Origin, you didn't take on one Walters. You took on two of them, like Kerrod and Steve, and you deliberately go after them.
Great rivalry.
Yeah, and now there's another great one with you and Mario.
Yeah.
Mate, can you tell us the story of the greatest ever sting ever when you got him sent off? Is that fair dinkum? Tell us the story. If this is the greatest ever.
It was a good get. No, it was. I'll never forget it. Kevin Roberts was the referee. Semi-finals, 87. We needed to win that game.
So this is a semi-final?
Oh, yeah.
So it's a massive game?
Massive game. We're in all sorts. And we're at the cricket ground. And it's halfway, just before half time. I said, Blocky, we need to do something here, mate. We're getting belted. He goes, oh, no. I said, mate, next scrum, put a stink on. And he's gone, what? And I said, mate, just trust me. If you need to block, put a stink on. Yeah. He had no problem. Bundy, he was up against Bundy. So you knew as day goes tonight, Block's going to put
He would have started salivating when he sort of been drooling. Yeah.
I think he knocked the ball on purpose.
Let's go scrums. Pack it.
So on the way to the scrum, I take my mouth guard out and I bite my hand as hard as I can. Just to think, he said, what are you doing? I said, just leave it with me, Blocky. Just trust me. So he's about 8 steps behind you. Block, you just worry about fighting. Just worry about it, Block. So we go to the scrum, put my mouth guard back in, and Block, as the day goes tonight, gives Bundy the biggest uppercut you've ever want to see. And there's an all-in brawl. The scrum went in, everyone's fighting everyone, and I fling out of the scrum. And I go to Kevin Roberts, I say, that mongrel Fennick, look what he's done. He's bitten me. And he goes, don't worry, I saw it all, Benny. Fennick, you come here, you're off.
Send him off.
Send him off.
What did Mario just
Oh, mate, what are you talking about? What do I do? Goes,
what minute of the game's that?
That was just before half time. And we were getting beat.
Yeah.
We went in the second half, they were playing with 12 players. So
you come at one?
Yeah. We beat them and we went on.
That's as good as you get.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
Anyway, it was one of those guests.
Oh, mate. That's the greatest sting of all time.
We had to do something.
Oh, well, exactly. But it's the best. I love how the referee goes, yep, I've seen it all.
Don't worry, Benny.
Of course not. Just like
I showed him the big bite indentation on my hand. He goes, oh.
Mate, see, if I did that, the refs would go, there's no one got teeth like yours, Finchy. They know. Mate, post-career. Now, you've handled post-career as good as anyone. And you've, arguably just as successful in your post-rugby league career as you were. What was your secret to it? Obviously, no doubt you characteristics that instilled as you as a bloke, hard work and things like that. But how were you so successful? How did you in areas you've had no previous history in,
Well, I was very fortunate. I had a very big mobile phone business.
Yeah. Well, you're a pioneer with the mobile phones, aren't you?
It was in the early days, in the early 90s.
So one of the original trailblazers.
Yeah. It's funny. I was doing some radio work with Hollywood and Zorba at 2GB. It was and I'd be on there and this one weekend I got this big phone and I brought it into the studio. And I told them, mate, you can make phone calls from your car and from your boat. And they said, oh, bullshit. I said, mate, you got to have a look at this. It's amazing. They were $8,000 a phone. And Zorba thought it was Christmas. He's got, oh, my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And so they started sprigging it on the radio. That weekend, we sold 38 phones.
At $8,000 a pop.
At $8,000 a pop. So the big boss of Optus, we were
do the math on that, Cam, because I can't do it.
But it was amazing. So the boss was the bloke at the boss. He became the chairman of Telstra. His name I've forgotten his name. It just eludes me at the moment. But he rang me up and he says, "How did you sell all these phones?" I said, "Well, mate, I was on the radio on the weekend and da da da." He said, "Mate, we'd like you to be, we would like to support you, open up stores all around the joint." I said, "Are you joking?" He said, yeah, any store that you open up, we'll give you $100,000.
$300,000 right there for the weekend.
Yeah.
And what year is this?
This is 94. I'm playing football. My last
so you're
year.
still playing?
Yeah, I'm playing football. My last year. Alan Jones was the coach.
Did that help the retire? I know it's at the end of you're 31, 32.
Bob Mansfield was the bloke. He was the chairman. He was the boss of Optus at the time. And he became the chairman of Telstra. And mate, I formed a very good relationship with him. And mate, he loved sport. And he said, "Mate, whatever we can do to help." And I said, "Mate, I'm boots and all." So when Super League came along, I got offered to go to North Queensland for 3 years. And my business was going so strong, I thought, no, I don't need this.
And I'm sure they would have been paying plenty.
They did. It was $800,000 a year.
Business is going better.
Way back then. But business, I couldn't leave the business because, mate, you'd make orders that all your livelihood, all the money that you'd have in your life, you'd roll the dice for the month because you think. And then, as we all know, mobile phones became phenomenal, massive. Every corner had a mobile phone store. And when there was the population had 19 million phones, because I thought, well, there's no more growth here. I'm getting out of the joint. So I sold it, and it was very successful. But you ask about success. Well, you talk about the qualities that you have as a footballer, what you did, You wanted to make sure that you were the first bloke in the office and the last one to go home. And you make sure that you make the sacrifices. And,
You'll say that your work ethic was underlined,
and
underpinned
I miss seeing
what
my
you
kids
did.
grow up, mate. Like, they don't understand. You don't understand it until you finish and you look back now and you think, I didn't see my kids grow up because, mate, my company was national. So I'm flying to Melbourne, Adelaide, Hobart, Tasmania, to Darwin, to Queensland. I had stores all over the joint. And you had to be on top of things because, mate, you're ordering $400,000-$500,000 worth of stock every month.
Not bad from a kid who landed here when he was 2 from Lebanon. And when you look back, isn't it?
It is. But mate, the joy was the people that I had in that company. Like, we hired over 300 people. And it was the young people who made successes out of it, which were great. That was the joy you got out of it. Seeing those kids doing well and making a career out of it. And a lot of them still are in the game.
We talk about young kids making a career. Your nephew, your Mitchell Moses, his uncle.
Mitch.
He's one of the great Parramatta number 7s, just like me. He's lasted a little longer at Parramatta than I did.
Yeah, no.
But he's going great, mate. And again, Parramatta, they're sitting second. They've had another great start to the season. You must be proud to see the young footballer he's turned into.
Mate, and I am. You're right, Brady. He's a wonderful young man. Honestly, he loves his footy. You talk about loving something and then committing yourself to it.
Nut.
He went to sleep with a football in his arms. And whenever we had a family function, you'd see him kick the ball around and pass the ball, and he'd always had the football in his hand. And unbeknown to me, I didn't think he was going to be going that good. But he's brilliant. Mate, I got him. He was a Parramatta junior.
You got him across the Tigers.
I got him over the Tigers. Yeah, I offered Parramatta to say, mate, can you give this kid a scholarship or something? He's 15, 16, a good kid. Very, mate, no way.
They paid a lot more to get him back there 10 years later, didn't they?
They paid a lot more. Yeah. But look, he's a great kid. When you got the likes of Cooper Cronk and Joey John saying this kid's got the best kicking game, one of the top 3 in the game. Yeah. Where do you find the best kicking player? I mean, the kicking game, as you know, Finch, is probably one of the most important factors of a game.
We can turn a shit set into a great set.
Correct.
Or we can turn a great set into a shit set, depending on the other
kick. That's right. Well, you know how important it is.
Of course it is.
Well, mate, where do you find him? The kid can kick goals.
Yeah.
He's got blistering speed.
Yeah.
He's got good footwork. Yeah. And, mate, now he's 26. He's much stronger.
Of course, he's got that. You get that man body, don't you?
He developed that body now, the strength, the smartness. And he's at the age of 26. You play your best football between 26 and 30. So, mate, I reckon now, and I can almost say, I can say this on your channel, I reckon I'd be very, very, very surprised if he left Parramatta. He loves it. He loves it there. And, mate, I know the Broncos, not only the Broncos, there's about 4 clubs after him.
Where's his best chance to win a grand final? That side's been to get there. They're on the launching pad, aren't they, Parramatta? They've been in the top 4 a few years in a row now.
They came 3rd last year.
Yeah.
3rd. I mean, that's a good effort.
They stayed in the top 10 all year. Sorry, top 4 all year.
Mate, you go to Bankwest Stadium now, it's full.
I can't... Look, someone asked me the other day about all these halves. And they asked me about Mitchell Moses yesterday on SEN. I was with Fletch and the boys. Yeah. And I said, mate, well... Where do you put him? I'd have him in my top 5 halfbacks. There's Cleary, there's Cherry Evans, there's Reynolds, Jerome Hughes. I might be missing someone else there, but unless you're bringing in those, why would you let him go?
You wouldn't.
He's 26, so like a Mitchell Pearce, I'd have Pearcey there. Sorry, but Pearce, like say Pearcey's 31, 32. You're not going to let go Mitchell, who's 26, who's arguably got another 7 to 10 years left.
We'll put it on.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I could not believe if Parramatta let him go.
They won't let him go.
I could not believe, and you know what? They may be just at the moment trying to figure out a number to land on for years and dollars, but with the lack, I think the halfbacks are very much like quarterbacks, where you got the top and then there's a big gap to the next crew coming through, and
he's the most important player.
They've got one there to let him go. I'd be very surprised.
And Dylan, the 5'8", he's
good young kid,
mate. What good halves they got. I mean, and mate, they've got some striking wing. Mate, they're a good side. I reckon they're a real good chance of winning the premiership. They're a year more mature this year, and you can see in the way they play where they compose themselves under pressure. But this time last year, they lose those games.
Well, outside of them, who else can win the comp? in your opinion?
Well, the good thing
if you're tip one, outside of Parra, obviously Parra with Mitchell, but besides Parramatta,
Penrith phenomenal.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Of course, it goes without saying. I mean, their record, they've lost one game in 35.
That's ridiculous.
The hell is that?
That's unbelievable.
Who does that? One game to start.
And it's the big one that mattered, the grand final.
Yeah, but you know what? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. They got, and you can tell, mate. All you got to see is the body language of the players.
Yeah.
You can see that they're a happy club.
Yeah, and they all get on.
When they score a try, they're jumping over.
Well, they're coming from everywhere.
They're coming from everywhere. Even when they were winning by 24 points in the weekend, they scored a try in the corner, but they all celebrated like
it was a match winner.
Like it was 1999.
Exactly.
It was, and that's the way they got their handshakes, they got their little moves, and they sing along. It's a joy to watch them, you know. Whereas you look at our club, and it's
all looks hard work, doesn't it?
It's very hard, you know. The celebrations when we score a try are nowhere near what they are. Maybe we take a couple of leaves out of their book and have a look at what makes someone successful. You look at people who are successful, and you see
emulate.
What are the formula? What are the ingredients? This bloke, what has he or she done to become such a success? And you take it, and the greatest joy is almost copying them and have a look at what they're doing and try and implement your own way of celebrating. I don't know what it is, but mate, we need something, and we need it bad at the Tigers, and I hate reflecting back on it. But it does. It really get up my nose when we've only won one game in 7 weeks.
Maybe they need you there, Benny, because, mate, if your career not only playing but both sides of on the board and in
Finch,
the
can I
on
ask
the
you a
field.
question? I know you've been asking me all these questions. You tell me, for your listeners out there, tell me how important is the mind in this game?
Oh, it's everything. The mind's 90%. You
understand that?
What, 90%?
Well, I don't think there'd be too many experts that would differ what you're saying.
Well, I spoke to Shane Flanagan the other day, and he was speaking about with Cronulla when they won the comp. He said, mate, blokes like Matt Pryor believed they were better than Jesse Bromwich. Now, Jesse Bromwich, in my opinion, is a better player than Matt Pryor. But Matt Pryor believed it.
That's right.
You know, and that's all you need. If you believe you're bigger and stronger and better, if you believe it, that's all that matters.
Mate, anyone listening now, I mean, it's been over an hour or whatever it is for this. But if they can, this the greatest advice I could ever give anyone is your mind is the most powerful thing by a mile. And if you set your mind and you set little goals to get the big goal, and you set yourself and you focus on that, that mind power is phenomenal, like extraordinary. And mate, you can tell people because you've been playing under the blokes like Craig Bellamy, who you look at him, and I know he's all fiery and all that in the coach's box, but mate, during the week, he prepares you for Sunday. He prepares you from Monday to Saturday for Sunday's game, and it's all in the mind. He'll get in you, and he'll get into your head. This is what we can do, and this is how we do it. So you know, and that is the power. And you're right, 90. You said 90%.
Yeah.
Well, the same applies for work. Yeah. The same applies for business. Yeah. It is all because if you're strong at mind, your mind's strong and you're focused and you know what you're doing. Then you go about that business with a bit of a surety, you know, a bit of arrogance, a bit of strength, and you just know before you walk into that meeting, you've got them beat. You got them beat.
Yeah. Of course, you're prepared.
And it's knowledge. You know, you've got to understand. With knowledge, which is the mind,
it becomes power, isn't it?
Becomes very powerful. So if you know what you're going to talk about in your meeting because you've done your research and you know all about everything about this topic, you're going to beat them. And you'll win the business. You will. And the same applies with the league. Same applies with you. You've done your research on me. You've got your notes there. You feel confident in asking me these questions. And that's what you do. Because if you were an idiot and you didn't know what you were talking about and you didn't have your notes there, you know, I'd be thinking, oh, what am I doing? What the hell am I doing? We've been here for over an hour. And we could talk for the next 5 hours.
Exactly.
But
we'd have to take the rest of it down to the pub. That's fine. That's when you get the juicy comments.
But that's what it is, isn't it? And it's how powerful that mind is. So we're 1 in 7. So how do we get out of it? I reckon we start to really focus on what we're truly about, and we all got to take responsibility. Until you take the responsibility and stop shying away and say it's the coach's fault or it starts at the top in the boardroom. Mate, take your responsibility. Worry about yourself at the moment because everything will fall into place. If you work hard and you believe in each other and you all put the extra time, we're going to put an extra 5 hours of work this week at training because we have to. And I'm going to be there and I'll make sure that you're there. And you know, when training starts at 4 o'clock, I'm there at 3.
and I'll leave it an hour after.
And then you just know, oh my God, well, he's doing extra. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Then it's infectious.
Yeah,
then
it's
you
a domino
start
effect, isn't
becoming
it? Knock on effect.
Anyway, that's my 2 bobs for the.
Well, mate, with 2 bobs, I'll tell you what, it's worth more than 2 bobs. And not only that, mate, you've done it with both sport and business. And, I certainly took a lot out of that because that's something I've struggled with post-career. And I know plenty of my listeners, all 3 of them, or how many's out there listening, I would take it. But, mate, I really appreciate you coming in, mate. Like I said, when I grew up in Origin, you were where Wally,
thanks, mate.
you know,
No,
and we've become mates since.
We have, yeah.
Which makes it even better, mate. But I appreciate your
Yeah.
time, and let's hope, mate, we talk later in the year. It's the
What I
Tigers
haven't
doing
spoken
better.
about is my 2 kids, which is.
Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah, no,
I get on great with you.
I know
Yeah.
you love my son Crawford,
Yeah.
but they're my and I want to just say congratulations to you,
Yep.
because your new joy now,
Yeah,
and
little Mackenzie.
life is your little
It changes,
girl,
doesn't it?
Mackenzie.
It changes you.
My God,
Slows you down.
what a joy.
Yeah.
And there's a different love. You talk about love and
So how old are your
passion.
2 children?
My kids are 26 and 24. My daughter's a lawyer, and my son, as you know,
Well,
he flies
that's good.
drones. He's a qualified butcher, and he does a lot of consultancy work, for public companies
Yeah.
now. He's both, and touch wood, they're good kids,
Yeah,
know,
they're
and that's
great.
all you ask for in life, Your kids, and you live for your kids.
Would that be your proudest moment, your kids?
Oh, my kids are absolutely my everything.
Yeah.
That's what we do it all.
Yeah.
That's all I do it for.
Yeah.
That's all I live for, my kids.
exactly right.
I love them.
Yeah.
I adore them. Like I'm on the phone on the way here.
Yeah.
Both of them on the phone. When I ring one, I ring the other. Always. It's and I wish you all the joy in that, mate.
Thanks, mate.
And you know what? I'm glad to see you. So happy, both of you. To be here. And the first thing we talk about is Mackenzie, and your face, your smile. For the people who can't see, his face is just lit up with a smile from ear to ear.
Well,
And his lovely
she's got the
wife
double whammy. She
Yeah.
looks like me, missus.
Thank God.
Well, as you can see, if people
God.
can't see it, I'm actually wearing a shirt. It's like my skin's that pasty white. I'm wearing a shirt,
yeah.
but the missus has got the nice darkest tan
Oh
skin.
no, your kid's lucky.
So lucky she's got that, but she's a bit of a loony like me. Like she's mad, so that could
We
be
wouldn't want
dangerous.
it any other way,
I know, it
Finchy.
certainly keeps you on your toes, mate. Thanks for coming
It's a
in.
pleasure, mate.
Look forward
Love
to
you.
catching up for a
You're
beer.
Good man. All right, champion. All the best, mate.